right, race fans, Ryan Aho and the one and only Bert Lehman. How you doing, Bert?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
Doing awesome. Hey, we're bringing you guys episode 69 of the One to Go show, and we're only two away from my favorite number. I mean, we're getting close. I mean, that's going to have to be like a landmark special episode when we get to 71. But we had all kinds of racing that was supposed to happen here this last week, and a lot less of it happened than what we thought. There was still a bit of racing going on, and let's get to some late model action, Bert. We'll talk about, there really wasn't a ton, but there was a good late model race. I mean, the season finale of the Dryden Extreme, I guess Dirt Car Late Model Series, really it's run by the World Racing Group. I mean, a lot of the World of Outlaws folks were there. I know you watched that race down at Modoc, race number 6 of 6. Why don't you fill the fans in on kind of what you saw? I have a few thoughts on that race myself.
Yeah, I mean, it was of the races in this Extreme Series, this was probably one of the better ones. It may not be a coincidence that the race was run in the dark and not during while the sun is shining, so that may have had something to do with it. I think I can't remember which driver said this. It might have been Ross Bales, but he thanked the track for the work that they put into it, because they must have put some water on it and farmed it up a bit before the feature. And it showed. There's another driver that thanked the crew there too. And he said this was the raciest race that he's ever been at that track. So
Bert, hey, Ross Bales probably should have been like mad. He should have been like, you should have made this deal locked down at the end of the race. But
yeah. I mean, actually, Ross Bales led a good portion of the race. He was kind of married to the bottom, and Overton late in the race. Overton. I mean, that's one thing you say about Brandon Overton is he'll drive where he has to make a pass, and he tried the outside and he was able to make it work and took the lead late in the race and went on to win. I believe it was 7,000 to win the race, and Bales finished second. There was actually a good contingent of some. I mean, because Hudson O'Neill was there. He finished in the top 5. Madden finished 6th and won the championship. It was funny because I'm watching the feature. I just watched the feature. I didn't watch any of the other heats, and I'm watching the feature. I was probably about a quarter of the way through, almost halfway through the feature, and I was thinking to myself, had some doubts in my mind as to whether this was an extreme race, because I didn't hear Madden's name at all. So it's like he's got to be there. But then at the end, he got up to 6th. But apparently he said that this isn't one of his better tracks, but he finished 6th, won the championship, won $15,000, and Kyle Strickler finished 2nd in points and got 8,000 for second. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the top 6 really in this race, right? You got Brandon Overton, of course, he started 6th, Overton, Bales, and I believe that's 3 consecutive top 2 finishes for Bales, to close out this series.
Yeah, I believe so.
I tell you, I'm impressed. He's looking really racy. Dustin Mitchell, though, that's a guy I don't know. He's kind of the odd man out. I don't know much about this guy. Hudson O'Neill, of course, got 4th, Kyle Strickler 5th, and then Chris Madden got 6th. And from that point back, you see Parker Martin, who's kind of that kid, or there's really not a lot behind that. So I really wasn't impressed with Madden. Yeah, he won the points. He won the championship, but it's like he points raced, right? And I don't know if he can go faster than that, but he just didn't look like, it wasn't a dominant win, right? So he won, Strickler got 2nd, and really, night number 2 of the series, or night 2 or 3 of the series, I don't know if you remember, but Strickler got in the fence in the heat, and then he got in the fence in the feature. If that don't happen and he can round out a 5th, 6th place finish, he probably wins the series. You know,
Yeah,
so
the World of Outlaw announcer, he does the announcing he did the announcing, and I don't know if you saw the post race interviews, but yeah, he reminded Kyle of that. That he said Wald, yeah, and then he named the speedway that it happened. But I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, and that's it. That was
Strickler
the difference.
Strickler took it all in stride. He said, "That's racing. It is what it is."
And that's the lack. I mean, he's got experience racing. I mean, the guy's won a ton of races, but that night I watched that race and I'm like, what in the world is he doing? I mean, it was all marbles up top. He's flailing the top, and it cost him a championship. And so, what did it cost him? $7,000, because I believe it was $8,000 for
Yep.
second,
Yep.
15 for first. But a pride thing too, because even though it's only a 6-race series, I mean, a championship's a championship, and he let's see if he makes that same mistake twice, because right now he's sitting in the driver's seat in another series that might be just a little bit bigger than that one, right? So we'll see how he can transfer. But overall, good racing. I guess Strickler's look pretty good. I'm pretty impressed with him. But the guy that I would say the last 3 races in this Extreme Series, Bert, the guy that I'm most impressed with, Ross Bales. A guy that really needs a breakout season, I'm looking forward to maybe seeing him run up front in some of the World of Outlaw shows.
Yeah, I mean, he was racing a car for somebody else other than what he races in the World of Outlaw series, and he's looked really good in this car.
Yeah, he sure has. And so that's it for that series. That series is over, and it's kind of a nice little 6-race series, kind of a neat deal they put on. Then I got to looking at some races, and I knew there was some mod stuff going on down in North Carolina. There was a UMP mod deal going on, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna jump on. I'm gonna check out the mods. And I know the first night Nick Hoffman won. The last night there, that young Drake Troutman, I think he's 17 years old. He started a couple rows back. He actually drove around Hoffman to win, pounding the cushion there in that MB Custom car. So good mod racing. I think it was the first night or the second night they were in lap traffic. I don't know if you saw it, Bert, but Hoffman was lapping cars, and I didn't see what happened leading into it. There might have been like a little bit of an altercation, and that lap car took a swipe at him, completely missed, and drove wide open into the fence. I'm like, yep, that's stupidity at its finest right there. I mean, if you're going to try to tease somebody up, so racers, if you're watching this, if you're listening, first of all, I don't necessarily condone trying to wreck somebody on purpose when you're mad. Not saying that I may or may not have done that in the past, but if you're gonna miss, don't stuff yourself into the wall. Okay, I'm recommending that. Write that down. That's a good lesson. If you miss, don't destroy your car. And boy, I got a good chuckle out of that one. I thought it was pretty good. And then I just got to looking, right, and I'm like, they didn't have super late models, and 602 crates are like not even the B late models. They're like the C or D late models, right? They got the little motors. Don Shaw was there, and he was there the week before in North Carolina, and he was at this event as well. I'm like, really? Don Shaw's there? And Cody Overton, of course, who's Brandon's brother, I think he kind of put the smackdown on them guys most nights. But Shaw was there the first couple nights, ran okay. I was just surprised to see him, to be completely honest with you. I'm like, what in the world? But here's the part that got me. So they weren't there at the last night. So I looked at my race pass. I'm like, weird. He's down there and he didn't stay through the whole thing. I'm like, that's kind of weird. So I saw on Facebook that his daughter posted. She says, yeah, Dad got the itch to drive the other car. So they were on the way home. He jumps on an airplane. He flies to Arizona, over to the Arizona Raceway or Arizona Speedway, and wins his 3rd consecutive race over there. And I'm going to get this right because I didn't realize what the series was. The SWDRA, Southwest Dirt Racing Association Super Late Model Series, currently leading the points. Now, he's not going to run the whole thing because it kind of goes all the way through the fall, but 3 for 3 in that deal. So he won all 3 of them. And, let's be honest. I mean, it's not like the cream of the crop in Arizona late model racing. It's not. But, he's a guy that's become very successful in life with, shot trucking. And, during the summer, he's crazy busy. He's running I-94 Speedway. He still races some. But this time of year, he's like, well, I can go race down south, and I'm not going to go buy super late model stuff because I'm just not going to invest that kind of money to do that. I mean, he has the stuff, but that's not his focus. And so he's able to go down, have a little bit of fun, and I'm kind of envious, to be honest. I mean, it's. I think there's a lot of drivers that are like, oh yeah, he didn't win against anybody good, but they're all jealous because they were at work and he was down in the warm weather racing. So congratulations, Don Shaw, 3 straight wins down there. I know he's having a blast, and he wanted to run the Wild West Tour, the Wild West Shootout deal, but he had COVID, so he couldn't, right? So he was going to run some super late model stuff, but he had to sit on the sideline. So kind of cool to be able to see him get behind the wheel. And it was just weird to me that he's in North Carolina over here. Next thing you know, he's like way the heck over here in Arizona. I'm like, what the heck is that all about? And I don't even know where he keeps his cars, right? Because they both had 42S on it. So I don't know how that all worked. I don't. It's weird to me. I'm not sure. I'll have to get him on the show one day and kind of ask him all about that. So, did you watch any of that? Any of that racing down there, Bert?
No, I didn't see any of that racing. I did see that it was taking place, but I didn't catch any of the action.
Yeah, the most notable thing for me was that, because Don Shaw's a local guy, right? So, I don't care where it is in the country. If one of our guys, even if I don't, and I like Don, but I'm saying that if it's a guy, even if I don't like the guy, right, I still kind of cheer for our guys when they go out of the area. Yeah. But I do like Don Shaw. So we'll get that clear. So I'm not saying that. So I do like Don Shaw.
Don't cause any controversy like you did last week.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, yeah. So Don, me and him never raced against each other enough to cause each other some headaches. So that kind of worked out. But yeah, I might have ruffled a feather or two last week. My phone was ringing and buzzing, and I was getting text messages and people kind of sticking up for old Jerry Weigel over there at the Eagle Valley Speedway. Like, hey, he's just trying. And I get it, right? He's trying to do what's best for his business. I don't agree with it, especially if Menominee opens. And Bert, I don't know if you saw the Red Cedar Speedway. They really had kind of their first step towards opening up.
I actually watched the city committee meeting when they talked about the speedway, and I got a sense that there's one or two board members on that committee that don't necessarily want to see the track open, but the committee did agree to agree with the plan that was put forth by the speedway. Now it's got to go to a bigger board or something like that. I mean, they still have hurdles to clear yet. I mean, they're not in the clear yet to run, but at least there's a little bit of momentum on their side now, and hopefully, as COVID cases continue to decline and more people get the vaccine, hopefully, they'll be able to open. I mean, one of the board members did bring up the fact that, if they don't open, the fans from the city and the racers from the city, they can go to other tracks, insinuating that, the city will lose business if they don't open.
Right. And, I think there's, man, that place forever, man, the Red Cedar Speedway, Menominee, Wisconsin, Bert, for 40 years. I've been hearing, well, they're trying to shut it down. I mean, I don't remember if this is exactly correct, but I feel like the track was there before the hospital was even there. And then when that came in, they're like, well, they're going to try to close the track down because of this and that and the other. And so there's always been a little contingent over there that's like, well, we don't like racing. There's obviously a huge contingent over there that loves racing. I mean, Menominee, Wisconsin's a big racing town. There's a lot of really successful racers that have come out of that area, a lot of history there. Hopefully they get that worked out. I hate to see any track close, especially for 1 year, but 2 years would really suck in it.
Right.
Especially, and what happens if a track closes for too long, there's a lot of local guys and gals that maybe they wanted to race kind of their home track that they don't really have the budget to travel, even if it is only a half hour to an hour. They want to race at home. And I'm going to be honest with you, Bert, when people race their home track, it's easier to get their fans there. It's easier to get their friends there, their family there, because they only got to go a handful of miles. Even if it's 30, 40, 50 miles, you may go race there, but it's really hard to get people to follow you 30, 40, 50 miles, couple hours. That's tough to do. I talked to Les Duhlman about that. And he says back when he was running a late model over at Fulton City, because he's from Winona, he's like, man, like my friends came, they were all watching the races. When they dropped late models, they had to start running up in Menominee. I mean, he had to bribe people to go if he wanted to even have anybody to go help him, and that's only, you're talking an hour, so that really hurts. I mean, it hurts racing in general because it kind of takes people out of the game. So I really hope they open up there in Menominee, but I may have maybe kind of smacked old Carson around a little bit there in Wissota, and and I kind of threw him maybe a little bit under the bus, and all of a sudden my phone rings. Carson, Wissota. I'm like, oh, well, this is going to be good, right? And he jumps on the phone. He's like, you got something to say? I'm like, is the floor mine? He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, I do. I do got some things to say. So I don't care what sanctioning body it is, Bert. It could be Wissota, UMP, USRA, IMCA, drivers, tracks, associations, the sanctioning body. There's always conflict. There's always differences in opinion, and it turned out to be a really good conversation, so my kind of tossing him under the bus kind of spurred that conversation. So I don't regret it, but the fact is he was open to listening, because he's aware, tracks are kind of falling out, especially like Wisconsin. Last week I said, there's 5 Wissota tracks. I was wrong. There's 4. Eagle River don't have Wissota classes anymore. So I was off by one the wrong way, so, we got to talking about that, and I asked him, and I said, why are these tracks leaving? You ever ask him? And he's like, I've asked him, and like nobody has an answer. So, there may be issues with the sanctioning body, Bert, we're talking Wissota. There might be issues there. But what I'm urging, if you're a promoter, if you're a driver, write these down. Okay. Anything that you would like to see Wissota do better, right? Write it down. And don't just write down the problem. Why don't you write down a viable solution to the problem as well? Okay. It starts there, right? Because me included, right? And now I've changed. I've become more solution oriented later in life. But for many years, I'd complain a lot. And I still like to complain once in a while, Bert. And don't smile when I say that, all right? So the fact is, it's just the way it is. We're passionate about what we do. We all want things to get better. But don't just jump on Facebook and complain. And don't just bicker amongst your friends and complain. Number one, write down what you'd like to see different. And this goes for any sanctioning body, right? But write down what you'd like to see different, then write down a viable solution, and then get it in the hands of the people that can actually make a difference and do something about it. So that's the challenge I have. And actually at the end of the day, I appreciated that phone call because it went good. I mean, we were on the phone for better part of an hour, and, that it kind of went both ways. And, I kind of got a sense that, he wants the right things for Wissota, but it's kind of like Jerry Maguire. Help me, help you. Help me, help you. And if he doesn't, if Wissota and all that, if they don't know what the issues are and they're not hearing it with solutions behind it, how can it get better? So I guess that's my point there. So
it sounds like there needs to be a little bit more communication because, I mean, obviously, if a track is dropping Wissota, I mean, there's a reason for it. They're not just dropping it for no reason. So it's a case of you have to dig deeper and find out ultimately why are you leaving? And, I mean, every track has its own reasons. I mean, I know when Shawano and other Eastern Wisconsin tracks were part of Wissota, we always felt, I know I talked to a lot of drivers and they always felt like on the eastern side of the state, we were like on an island that, Wissota just forgot about, because, Wissota, when I think of Wissota, I think of Minnesota, Western Wisconsin, and the Dakotas. I don't necessarily think of Eastern Wisconsin. And that's the way other drivers kind of felt too. And eventually the tracks felt that way too. And decided to go unsanctioned.
Well, clearly Western Wisconsin's feeling a little bit left out now too. So I mean,
Well,
and same thing with North Dakota. They're starting to feel left out clearly too. So I think you're right on though, that communication. And I don't care if it's your relationship at home. I don't care if it's your relationship, with employees or your boss. I don't care what any relationship, whether it's drivers to promoters to the sanctioning body. Communication is the key. So there's got to be that communication, and all sides are guilty. And I'm the first one to say Wasoda's got some issues. I mean, I love the idea of Wasoda, but there's some changes that definitely need to be made. And I addressed many of those with Carson. Now we'll see how it goes from there if anything happens. But, they got to, I mean, you look at the Facebook page there, for example, and they have like 3 or 4 posts since the beginning of December on the Facebook page. They should be promoting their tracks. They should be promoting their drivers. There should be stuff. They should be doing something, and there's nothing going on. So there's a lot of moving pieces in there, but regardless, the conversation was able to happen. All in all, I think everybody that gets involved with racing kind of has the idea of, well, I want to make racing better. I'm involved with racing because I like racing, right? So everybody wants it to go. People got different opinions on how to make that happen, but there's few out there that really step up and go above and beyond to actually grow the sport, right? And you can see the tracks, and we've talked about that in the past. We don't need to get into all the different tracks on who's good, who's not, but there's some tracks out there that are really stepping up their game. It's like they put themselves on the map, and it's like, man, these guys are doing awesome. There's series directors out there that are like taking the series and exploding a given series, whatever that may be. And then there's tracks out there that are going, well, we can't make this work. Well, do something different. I don't know what to tell you. You gotta figure it out. It's business. So, it's just part of it. But it was pretty comical because it's kind of fun to ruffle them feathers once in a while, and
Well, and I mean, I'm not just saying Wasota, but other organizations too. They don't want to hear negative things about them, but sometimes they need to hear negative things. They need, as long as you do it constructively, constructive criticism can be helpful. I mean, don't look at it as being a negative. I mean, listen to it, learn from it, and move forward and try to develop something better.
And that's one thing that he talked about. He's like, oh man, you talked about the negative stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. Give me something positive. And I told him that. I said, if Wasota goes and does something that's positive, right? If they do something that's like, hey, guess what we just did, right? Tell people so we hear about it, right? Because just like the news, right? All they talk about is all the negative stuff that gets ratings, right? So give us some positive stuff to talk about, and I guarantee both of us on here would like to share some positive stuff. Now, Bert, here's the deal. When I was racing, right, I was always the same way. I was the guy at the pit meeting saying, "This is BS. I can't believe you're doing this shit. What the hell? Fix the track. What the hell's wrong with you? Like, hail sucks and the officiating's terrible." That was me. I learned that from Tom Nesbitt, one of my heroes, by the way, and I was very vocal. A guy that was not quite so vocal got some big news up in the northern part of Wasota, right? So, did you see that big news? I know you're an eastern Wisconsin guy, but I know you've heard of this guy. All right, what's happening in the Wasota late model world, Bert?
Well, Harry Hansen's coming back to race again. So, and I mean, he's been racing forever.
Yeah, he ran the non-wing sprint cars there for a couple. Or he ran wing too. He was running sprint cars, but back in the late model. I think it's his 49th year of racing. And yeah, he's back in the late model. Sounds like he's got a rocket. He's going to run one of them 525 crate motors. Pat Capella, KME, up in Keewatin, is going to be his primary sponsor. I believe he owns that operation. But you know Harry at all? You ever seen Harry race?
I mean, I know who Harry Hansen is. I've never really spoken to him. I know a lot of the guys, well, not a lot, but some of the guys from MJ McBride's pit crew that I was a part of, they knew him really well because MJ would go race at the Punky Manor every year. That was like one of our favorite racing trips of the year. And we always stayed at I think it was called the Best Western. It's no longer there. They tore it down. But there was a bar in the hotel, which was nice because then you didn't have to worry about how to get to your hotel because you're already there. But yeah, Harry Hansen was always down there after the races, and so actually a lot of drivers would come down into that bar, and there's a lot of good times in that bar.
Harry never drank a beer. You're full of it. Now you're just lying to all of our viewers. No, here's the deal with Harry. So first of all, Harry, I mean, he's won a lot of races. I mean, he's won a lot of stuff. Probably, I would say if he's not the most winningest late model driver, kind of in that area up there, he's dang close. I mean, he's won a lot of races, But a couple things about Harry that stuck out to me is, number one, like he was the opposite of ruffling feathers most of the time. I'm not saying he never did, but you ever heard of the Michael Jordan effect? You ever heard of that?
Yes.
So for viewers, right, if you're listening to this, the Michael Jordan effect is this, right? Before every NBA game, when Michael Jordan was playing basketball, he'd be out on there, he'd be talking to the refs and being like, hey, how's your kid doing? How old's he doing? Or how old is he? And how's his game and how's the family doing? He'd be schmoozing with all of the rest. And everybody that's watched any basketball when Michael Jordan played, that guy traveled more than anybody in the history of basketball, right? But he never got called for it. Why? Because if it was close, they're like, man, I like him. I'm not gonna go out of my way and call traveling and fall on him and this and that. Why? Because he was buddies. The refs literally are like, oh, he's my friend. Michael, I'm friends with Michael. They probably went home and they're like, honey, Michael says hi. He's asking about the kids, and they're like, Michael Jordan. I mean, we're friends. Harry Hansen had the same deal. Still does. Harry Hansen's a guy that would hang out with the officials, and they, come on down, have a beer after the races. And I remember Don Hankey going down there, and the flag man down there, and the corner guys down there, and everybody hanging out at Harry's. And like, that guy jumped more than anybody in the history of jump starts at the Hibbing Raceway. You can watch back some of the old tapes. He'd fire away early and just let it go. The next race, somebody would jump by a little bit and he'd get docked a couple spots. I'd be like, how the hell did that happen? Well, you gotta get a case of beer and get the officials down and hang out with you. So Harry was very wise that way. I'm like, man, he's an ass kisser. Well, no, he's just smart, right? When you're racing for money and you're getting a paycheck, it's probably good to be on the right side of things. I had this conversation with a good buddy of mine, Jeff Krause, and he was more like me, right? When something went wrong, he was going to voice his opinion and he was going to tell you all about it. And he's like, man, I keep getting these bad calls. Any questionable call, I get put to the back. I'm like, do you know why that is? Like, you need to zip it, right? Which is hard to do for me and him because we're volatile. We like to share our opinion. But Harry was pretty smart that way. But the other thing that, in that, right, not just did he have officials down at his car, that guy right there, I mean, it would be crazy how many people were at his car after the races. It was nothing to see 30, 40, 50 people hanging out there and, a little bit of music playing, and they'd be drinking beer. And I remember they'd go to the corner bar in Hibbing afterwards and a whole bunch of people would follow them. And like, that guy knew how to build a fan base, right? Race fans like to drink beer. Heard the rumor. Might happen once in a while, right? But think about that for just a minute. You think about back in the day, people always came down in the pits after the races, right? Do you see that much anymore, Bert?
It's probably not like it was in past years. I mean, I relate more to Shawano Speedway because I'm there more often than I'm at other tracks, and the fans usually still interact pretty much after the races with the drivers.
How many classes? How many classes do they have?
5.
How long's the race program?
It depends. I mean, it's usually over by 10:30.
What time does it start?
Starts at 6 or 6:30. I can't even remember off the top of my head.
You're still looking at a 4-ish hour race program. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, one thing that helps at Shawano is a good portion of the pits are located actually directly behind the grandstand. I mean, you can actually converse with people in the pits throughout the whole race program, because the pits are separated from the grandstand area by a chain link fence.
Okay.
Which is one of the cool things about Shawano. When the World of Outlaws would come to Shawano, you know, all the outlaw late models would be lined up directly behind the grandstand, and you know, the fans could watch what was going on and stuff. So Shawano has a little bit of a unique situation there, because the pits are so close to the grandstand area, and that kind of happened by accident. I mean, this was quite a few years ago already, because they used to park all the race cars in the infield, and then they got a lot of rain one week, and so they were forced to park the cars on the outside of the track, and it worked out really well. And plus, by being able to park out there, you get those big haulers out of the infield, because, you know, as the haulers got bigger, it got tougher. You know, you had to sit so high up in the grandstand in order to see the backside of the track. So Shawano's a little bit unique in that regard. Is
the entire pits behind the grand? Do they pit anybody in the infield anymore?
No, there still are vehicles in the infield. But like most of the late models and quite a few of the modifieds will pit on the outside.
Okay.
Usually it's the 4 cylinders. Most of the 4 cylinders are in the infield, and some of the IMCA stock cars are in the infield yet too, and some assorted modifieds too. But
so I want to talk about the impact this has. Right? Because a lot of people are like, it's just one guy. It's Harry, big deal. It's Harry Hansen. He's come back. He's racing a late model, big deal, right? It's one, who cares? It's one guy. It ain't that big of a story. Oh, shit. It's a big story, because that guy right there, Bert, I'm here to tell you that there's 30, 40, 50 people that come to the racetrack just for him. Like, they're only there to watch him. And when he quit racing late models, you know, a couple of years back, a lot of them people just simply quit going to the races. They're like, you know, hey, I'm going to watch Harry, right? Some of the people were Brad Hansen fans too. No, I don't think there's a relation there. I don't think. But that's kind of the same area, and they quit coming. But Harry had such a big following that when you look at a fan base and you have, I don't know, 600 people on a regular night of racing, if you can add 30, 40, 50 more people, that's a big chunk, right? So, and then not just in Hemming, but that could be in Superior, that could be in Grand Rapids, that could be in Proctor, you know. So Harry has a big following, and it kind of gets me thinking, you know, a lot of, especially in our area, the Wissota area, you know, a lot of the tracks decided lately, I don't get why, hey, we got to have 5, 6, 7 classes of cars. It makes no sense to me. And
that's called the Puka effect.
Yeah, well, he's probably got something to do with that. Honestly, I think he's probably sponsoring under the table to make them add more classes. You're probably right there. I'm going to have a talk with him. I mean, I don't really get it. You know, I think that's a bunch of bunk. So Puka, you know, we're going to have a discussion, right? So the fact is, these race programs are going, some of them, right, 5 hours, 5.5 hours, 6 hours. I've seen invitationals 10, 11, 12 hours. Nobody wants to hang out after that. They're tired. They're wore out. They want to go home, right? And so you got that problem right there. Well, if you get that race program down to a 3 hours is kind of the window, but anything 3.5 is okay. You get much longer than that, you're losing people, They don't want to sit there all night. So, and if you have a condensed race program that's 2.5 hours to 2:45, well, you can do some neat stuff like some drivers intros on a bigger night, and you can add that stuff in without pissing everybody off that you're sitting there all night. Well, as a fan, okay, I'm not talking as a fan prior to my years of racing, but when I watched the races, I only wanted to watch a handful of people. Like, I mean, I love racing, but when I was a kid, right, especially, it's like I wanted to watch my dad. I wanted to watch some of the people that I knew. Joel Kreiderman I was a big fan of his. Ron Jones, I wanted to watch those people. Leon Plank. I had certain people I wanted to watch. And guess what? I look up at the races. If there's nobody that like I was a huge fan of, I didn't even watch. Like I went and ran around with my friends and kind of did my thing. Why? Because I had no tie to that driver, right? I'm like, I had no tie to that person. So what makes that tie is that interaction after the races. And Harry was such a master, still is. He's a master of that. It's gonna be good to see that back, where he has fans coming down and that interaction, and there's people that are passionate about watching him race. And I think that if we had more of that today, the grandstands wouldn't be empty at half these tracks. So whether it's the after the race thing, the before the race thing, the during the race program, the meet the drivers type stuff, there's got to be more fan interaction, because there's a lot of drivers out there, Bert, right now that are good racers. I mean, good racers. I'm just going to throw one under the bus. He's a buddy of mine, Kevin Burke, right? He is absolutely the worst in the entire, like, WISSOTA at building a fan base. There ain't anybody worse than Kevin Burdick at it. So, Kevin, if you're listening, yes, you suck at that. Like, you're absolutely terrible at that. He's like the last guy to the racetrack. He usually, because he works, right? So he usually shows up like the race has already started half the time, and he's pretty much always gone before the races are even done, right? And I get it. He's got a little drive. I get it, right? But there's something to be said for building that fan base. It opens up opportunity. One, it's better for the sport, right? Because you're gonna have fans, and they're gonna be passionate. They're gonna keep coming back. So that's number one. But it opens up opportunity for sponsors, right? If you're the guy that hangs around and you're mingling and you're fun to be around, pretty soon people that like racing are like, man, this guy wins races. Plus, he's fun to be around. I think I'm gonna go ahead and throw some money at him. How did Harry Hansen get a free ride racing? I wonder. Not just because he's good. There's a lot of good drivers, but the guy's personable. The guy was fun to be around. So that kind of created that. So Harry was a master at that. See, that was an art form. And some of these drivers, I wasn't very good at it either. So Burdick probably copied me. Like, I didn't always leave right away, but I wasn't the one that wanted to sit around and mingle all night. So I wanted to get home, get my car on the scales, and get it ready for the next day. I was like OCD, and that's probably why I didn't have some of the same big, huge opportunities that other people had. But I'm excited there, Bert, because, Harry's a great addition. And now, we talked about Jamie Lodiger last week, and now we're adding Harry Hansen in the mix, the late models. And I never thought I would say this ever. I think last year there was several nights where the late models had the highest car count at the Hibbing Raceway, and now they just added two more. And Jamie Lodiger, he's a pretty good racer too, but Harry Hansen, he's going to be a force. There's a guy that, Jeffrey Massengill, Derek Vessel, Kyle Peterlin, Bravo, you guys look out. This guy here, he's flat out going to steal a few wins from you guys. There ain't no doubt about it. So Harry Hansen, welcome back to real race cars. Keith, sorry, buddy, I love you, but late models are better than non-wing sprints all day long. So with that said, there's a lot of upcoming racing this week, Bert. Lots. So last week we had before I jump off that, is there anything you want to add on Harry Hansen?
No, I mean, other than the fact, I mean, it's nice to see a well-known, I mean, you can say legend coming back. That's one thing about racing is, when compared to other sports, is you can you can race longer than you can play football or baseball or that sort of thing. So, it's good to see.
Don't say hockey. You're going to piss off Puka. He's still playing hockey. He's like 50 or something. I'm not exactly sure. I think a couple years older than I am. So, and he's not on here to say any different. So it just is what it is. So maybe you can play hockey till you're 65. I don't know. Puka's probably going to try.
So I mean, it's good to see him back in a late model, and and it's impressive if the late model division is the highest car count at a track. That's something we don't have the luxury of in Eastern Wisconsin.
Well, I'm gonna do some research. In fact, I'm gonna write this down. I was talking to Derek Vessel, and Derek Vessel told me that a new 525 crate motor is cheaper than a brand new top of the line Midwest mod concept engine. Okay. I'm going to do some research so I can get some actual viable numbers on that. But, the cars are not that far apart on cost. I mean, you got 25, 26 grand into a B mod, and in a late model, I mean, it's probably I 35 or something like that. So it's not a huge difference, but the purse is like 4 times as much for a late model than it is a Midwest mod. So I think some people are seeing that, boy, that late model class done right, you can race at that at a pretty competitive level, and the money's not that much different, but you're getting paid way more. So I'm excited. We got some pretty good late model guys in the area up there. We just added one more, so it's going to be a fun season. And coming up here in a week or two, we're going to be talking about our 2021 preseason top 10 power rankings. We're going to start talking about the different regions and maybe who we put in the top 3 in different regions coming up here, because we're literally 6-7 weeks from some areas, 8 weeks, maybe 7 weeks. Cedar Lake would be the first one. That's early April. So we're not too far away from some late model racing in the power rankings region.
Yeah, so, I mean, Shawano Speedway is mid-April, whatever. I think it's like the second Saturday of April.
Yeah, so there you go. So we got some stuff coming. Now, let's talk about what's coming this week. So there was supposed to be 2 World of Outlaw late model races. Of course, one of them canceled. Looks like they had a bunch of rain. They got rain coming. I'm guessing, I've been involved with tracks. If they ain't been on the track and it looks like it's soft, they probably looked at it and said, that just ain't going to happen. But Smoky Mountain's still going to get theirs in. So we got one World of Outlaw race coming up. Just go ahead quick, Bert. Who's your pick this weekend at Smoky Mountain in Tennessee?
I'm going to go out on a limb this week, and I am going to take the Voodoo Child. Black Sunshine.
Bold. I'm writing that down. Bert is taking Bloomer. Okay. So I talked to our staff there. Pete, he said Chris Smokey Madden. And it sounds like Madden has it on his schedule. At first, I'm like, I don't know if he's going to go. It's a World of Outlaw deal. It doesn't necessarily follow, but it's down in Tennessee. So Jeff said that Madden has it on his schedule. Pete took Madden. Jeff said, there's no way after this break that Rocket 1 doesn't park this baby in victory lane. So he's got Rocket 1. Keith is going with Overton, and he's like, I don't know for sure if he's going, so I'm going to take Overton, my first pick, but he goes, I'm going to actually take Scott Bloomquist if Overton's not there. How about that? 2 picks. I don't think, I shouldn't say that. I guess I don't know if he's going to go or not, but he's got him, and boy, that kind of throws a couple curveballs. They're down in Tennessee down there, and, it's pretty stacked. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to say that a guy that's been running good, he has 3 impressive finishes in a row. I'm going to take Ross Bales is who I'm going to take for this one. I'm going to take Bales, so I'm going to write that down so I don't forget. So that's what we got going on there for World of Outlaw late models. Now, Bert, there's also more racing going on. So at Boot Hill Speedway, I don't know if you saw what's going on at Boot Hill, but it's the Ronnie Adams Memorial And it's the beginning of the Comp Cam Super Late Model Series. Friday night is 3,000 to win. Saturday night is 7,000 to win, and I believe that's going to be on Flow. So, that is down in, I don't know. Do you know where Boot Hill is?
I do not.
I don't. That's got to be. Oh, here it is. Right? No, I don't know where it is. We'll have to look that up. I should have that. That's an epic fail. I'm gonna blame Bert for that one. Actually, I'll blame Puka. Puka dropped the ball on that one. He didn't tell me where that is. So the Southern All Stars are starting up too. So the Southern All Stars, they got the March Madness. That's also on the 6th and 7th, and the 7th is 10,000 to win, Bert, for the Southern All Stars down there. Maybe that might be a place where you see maybe Overton go. That's at Cherokee. That's Gaffney, South Carolina. Who knows where he's gonna? He wasn't at the Extreme race. He was gonna be there, but that is 10,000 to win. Boy, that could be. So there's quite a bit of racing coming up here. So that's a 10,000 to win race against the 12,000 to win World of Outlaw race. So March Madness. Now, one thing I remember about the Southern All Stars, Bert, that announcer is like unique. He's the brother down there that he's kind of got that WWE wrestling style, like that deal. This guy, it's worth watching that race just to listen to the announcer, because the first time I listened to that, kind of like, this dude is like off his chain, like what in the world? But then I actually listened to him, and amidst all that like craziness, right? This dude actually knows what he's talking about. Like, he's actually like pretty informed. He had nicknames for everybody that I've never heard before, but I'm going to have to jump on. I think that one's on Flow, but I'm not 100% sure. You'll have to look it up. Cherokee Speedway. You'll have to look that up. Probably going to be on Flow, because most of them were on dirt last year, them Southern All-Stars deals. So I'm assuming that is too. Now, Keith, we didn't forget about you, buddy. We did not forget about you, right? World of Outlaws, the sprint cars, are back in action this week. They're going to run Friday over at Volusia. Saturday, they're going to run over at East Bay. This is kind of the rescheduled deal. They're supposed to go out west. Mother Nature and COVID kind of canceled that whole deal, so we're still dealing with that nonsense. But the fact is, back-to-back, we got a doubleheader coming up down in the Sunshine State. And who's your pick there, Bert? Who do you got?
Are we picking for both days?
Yeah, you can pick for both days. Why not? Let's do it.
I'll take Schuhart and give me shots.
Are you taking which one at which?
Schuhart at Volusia and shots at East Bay.
Oh yeah, that's a good pick, because Logan Schuhart won the series down there at Volusia. He looked really good down there during speed weeks, and if I had to pick somebody right now, he's kind of one of my. I would say he's my pick to win it all. I mean, to dethrone Brad Sweet. So I'm gonna go at Volusia. Man, I hate to do this, Bert. But I'm going to have to follow suit. That was my pick, and I don't want to change it, because I think you're right on there. So I got Schuhart there, but for East Bay, I'm going to go with none other than Brad Sweet over at East Bay. Now, we did get we got some picks here from our guys too. Pete just picked one guy, and so did Keith. So Pete said the redhead stepchild, he's going to get her done. He's got Brad Sweet. And Keith, he's on the Sheldon train. And I was just talking a little bit with another sprint car buddy of mine, Kevin Engel over at Huron, and we were talking. It's like, this guy is checkers or wreckers. Like, Sheldon Hoddenchild is fun to watch, right? The wild child's kid, and he is wide open. Boy, if you don't wreck, he's going to be in the front. And Jeff went on a limb here, and he said Donnie Schatz, who also was quick at Volusia, is going to get win number 300. And I don't know if you remember, but down at Speed Weeks, he was literally a couple laps away from winning number 300, and the MSD box failed on him, and it cost him that win. And then at East Bay, he's going to go also. He's going with Sheldon Hoddenchild at East Bay. So we get to watch some World of Outlaws here this week. Excited about that. And remember, we talked last week, we made some picks for the mods. the mods, the USMTS mods, are making their trip to Texas here this weekend because Mother Nature did not allow that to happen last week. So they're going down there for the Texas Spring Nationals. Friday is going to be at the RPM Speedway. Saturday is going to be at the Super Bowl Speedway. Bert, both of these 10 grand to win. $70,000 to win the USMTS championship. And every single race is a minimum of 5 grand to win, several or 10, including this double header. Big news from Wissota country, South Dakota, hot shoe, young driver Jason Good. Todd and Vicky Good are his parents. They actually run one of my favorite tracks, the Casino Speedway over in Watertown. They made the decision. Jason Good is now going to follow the entire 36-show USMTS tour. So excited, another Wissota guy heading down there. And we made our picks. I said Jesse Glenn's is going to get her done. That's who I picked. And I believe, I'll just go ahead. Who did you pick?
I took Sanders, I believe.
You took Sanders, and Keith said that he only can fall in love with one open wheel class. He goes, so I'm opting out of the modified class. He says, I won't even pick them dumb things, is what he said. So, yeah, I won't even tell you what the other two told him about that one. But Jeff, he said that Johnny Scott, a former, so he's a late model guy. He's going to be running a mod down there, Johnny and Stormy, I believe. I don't know about Stormy, but it sounds, Stormy, I guess I haven't heard that for sure, but I think he is too. But Johnny Scott is going to run. He said he's going to win night one. And night number two, he said Big Daddy, I think it's Joe Duvall, is going to win. Bert, did you see his car? Did you see a picture of his car?
Are you talking the Trans Am one?
Nope. He had a modified.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, on the door, the primary sponsor on the door, it says my wife's credit card.
Oh, okay. No, I did not see that.
I'm like, that's good stuff. And he's successful. He's a business guy. I think he's got an electrical business, I think. But that's who Jeff's got. Pete has your defending USMTS champion, Rodney Sanders, to win night one. He has TP Terry Phillips to win night two. I'm going to give him Sanders for both because I'm about 99% positive that Terry Phillips is going to be at Boot Hill running the late model. But I'm not 100% positive. Weather might play in on that. So USMTS, that's on Racing Dirt. They're going to follow the whole USMTS series, and super excited to see that. Bert, I'm expecting some big car cones. I mean, they're talking 70 plus USMTS modifieds down there. Good luck to all of our guys. Nothing against the guys down there, but I hope our guys from the north come down and kick all your all asses. That's what I'm kind of hoping. So, again, I'm a homer. It is what it is. Now, Alltech, they had Alltech is where, I think that's where they had the Kyle Larson show, right? Is that where he just put the spanking on him at Speed Weeks? That was Alltech, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Did you see the race coming up at Alltech this weekend?
No, but you mentioned that they have 100 lap, $10,000 to win pure stock race.
Pure stock. 10,000.
Now, I can understand. I mean, having a big race for them, 10,000, but 100 laps. That could be brutal.
I don't know how many are going to be left. It'll be interesting. It's a big half mile, so a big half mile there. It's going to be interesting. I'd be curious to see how many cars show up for that deal. That's going to be on Flow. Yeah, 10,000 to win pure stock race. I'm like, interesting. Florida's kind of weird. They don't have any like big giant late model shows. I think like pretty much everything's 10, 15, right? But they had a big crate late deal. Now they got a big deal here for the pure stocks as well. So that's interesting. And Keith, little bonus for you. Port Royal, they open up this weekend. The old Pennsylvania Posse boys, they're going to be racing some sprint cars up there. I believe that's going to be on Flow. I think it's going to be on Flow. I think that's on. I'm pretty sure that's on there. Now, a little bit of more news up there, and you might be familiar with this series. I'm not real familiar with it. The MLRA series. Is that Midwest Lucas Oil? Is that what that is, or what's MLRA stand for? You know?
The L is Lucas.
Luke, I thought so because they run at Lucas Oil Speedway, and but But Hot Shoe up there, and I like to call him the poor man's Bobby Pierce. Jake Tim is actually going to be racing the full series. He made the announcement here last week. He's going to follow the whole MLRA series, and he's going to transition his primary focus over to the fat tire cars. He's going to go primarily late model racing. So, and they kind of felt they were going that way, Bert, because at the end of last year, they kind of traveled a bit, right? They kind of hit some southern shows, and I know that Mississippi Thunder, of course, Bob Tim, owner of that track, they're having an MLRA race up there. And did you happen to see the Jake Tim shirts?
Yeah. You sent me a picture of them. They do look pretty cool.
Yeah, and did you see what it says underneath his name? Did you read it?
I didn't look that close.
It said King of Cushions. Sometimes. I'm like, that's good stuff. So he's aware that he likes charging the cushion, but he's also fully aware that sometimes it comes out, at the end of the race, there's no deck tin left or spoilers gone or whatever. But he's fun to watch, and good luck to Jake Tim in that. Really.
Well, and I'm gonna do a shameless promotion at this time. Look for an upcoming article written by me in Dirt Empire magazine about Jake Tim. So
nice. There's no shame. There's no shame in that. You got if you're a race fan, you got to check that out. That's an absolute must. Now, a little bit more news, right? So speaking of articles, there was an article on the Dirt on Dirt page about multi-time, I think 3 or 4 time Lucas Oil late model champion Jonathan Davenport. We talked about last week, Bert, that I saw his name on the entry list for the Bristol Dirt Nationals, and we're like, boy, does that mean he's not going to follow the Lucas Oil series? I mean, he's running that, and in the article it said we're going to roll the dice and we're going to hope one of them rains out. Right now they're focusing on the big money shows, and I don't know if you saw in the article, but it also said, that it's good to go for the money. The bad part is you're not guaranteed anything, right? If you're following the Lucas, if you're a contracted Lucas or World of Outlaw guy, you don't make the show, you get a provisional, and then you get your guaranteed tow money. Well, if you're just chasing the big money like this, there ain't no guaranteed provisional. There ain't no guaranteed tow money. You got to perform, and I don't know how to say it without just saying it, but that's kind of questionable because he ain't been performing all that well. So he best step it up a notch because there ain't no provisional land for the 49 now. So what's your thoughts about Davenport running fully committing that he's going for the big money?
Well, I mean, you're right in the fact that, in the article, basically he's hoping that it rains out, that those 2 Lucas races get rained out. So then he doesn't need to make a decision later on. I don't have a problem with him doing this. I mean, I think he could make a lot of money racing regionally because, I mean, it seems like every week there's tracks throwing up 10,000 to win shows, and that are not Lucas or World of Outlaw shows. But later on in that article, I think, because he stated in the article that one of the reasons he wants to race at Bristol because it's such a prestigious racetrack. Well, there's a World of Outlaw show coming up in April that doesn't conflict with the Lucas schedule now. So if that's his reasoning, he could race later. But I think ultimately what it came down to is his sponsor has a deal with Kyle Busch racing a late model. And I think ultimately his sponsor wants to race at Bristol, and they have Kyle Busch in one of his cars. So I think ultimately, that's the reason he's in Bristol.
I think you're exactly right. I think that's really what it comes down to is Rowdy getting back behind the wheel of a late model before the Cup race there. And, I think there's definitely something to that. But it also pays way more. The Bristol Dirt Nationals.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And plus, not only does it pay more, right, but that gets you in the double down or the triple crown double down or whatever they call it.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So when he goes to Vegas at the end of the year, he's running for double purse. So I tell you, when his head's in the game, he's one of the best in the business. Right? He is a phenomenal race car driver, but that's something that's been questioned from last year, not just from us, but for the Dirt on Dirt crew and all that, talking about his level of confidence. So he's a guy that he's got to get a little bit of an upheaval of momentum, to boost his confidence, so to speak. So he's going to have a couple good runs to have his head on right to be able to perform at a high level. But it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I tell you, there's a lot of money on the line at that deal. And we're only, a week and a half away, I think, or a couple weeks away from the Bristol Dirt Nationals. And lots of hype for that one, like 1,400 cars. And I know, I mean, you and I, we're excited about, the late models and especially, the mods. Puka's most excited about the Hornets. I know. I mean, everybody's got their favorite class. You're also going to be watching some of the IMCA stuff because your Eastern guys are going.
Yeah.
I got some Wasota guys going down to run the mod deal. So that's going to be a fun show to watch. Of course, that's going to be on XR, so we'll be all checking that out as well.
And they're building more hype because video's been released over the last week of practices taking place there, and so you're getting a little bit more excited. I don't know if you saw that Kyle Brown had a IMCA stock car there, and after he blew the engine after 10 laps, he said it was a brand new engine. They just dynoed it a couple of days prior to him going down there.
I'm here to tell you that's a big, fast racetrack. So, man, oh man, I mean, it's a motorator. If that place is heavy, you're on the pump all the way around the track. And Volusia this year for the mods, it was pretty slick most of the time. Even when it was wet, it was more greasy than it was like hammer down. But when that place was sticky, it just killed engines. So the drivers better hope for it to be a little slicker. I hope it's not, because it'd be really boring if it's super slick, right? I want to see like a little bit of something out there, but it'll be interesting to see. Speaking of Bristol, there was some debate on what people thought. I'm going to start with this about not that race, but the following one, right? The World of Outlaws, the World Racing Group, essentially going to the invite-only format for all the other classes. And in the area especially, there was some people that may or may not been a little bit of butthurt over this deal. First of all, what is your actual opinion on the invite-only event?
Well, I mean, obviously, when you have an invite-only event, there's going to be controversy because I don't know if that's why they do it. I mean, there's not necessarily the media presence with this type of a race, but that's one of the big things about the NCAA basketball tournament is who's in and who's out, and they have TV shows about that, just discussing who's in and who's out.
Right.
Actually, in that aspect, they look for the controversy. I'm not necessarily sure if the World Racing Group was looking for a controversy here, but there's always going to be some controversy when you have an invite only. I mean, we saw that last year at Eldora for the streaming races.
Speaking of controversy, right? There was people that were all butthurt at Kenny Wallace, and how come these guys get to go and I don't get to go? And Kenny Wallace used to be a pretty positive guy. It's kind of fun to listen to. He jumps on. He's got a couple-minute deal every day, and he's usually just kind of funny and quirky and whatever. He put Ryan's rant to shame, man. I don't know if you saw it, but he had like a 45-minute deal, and I don't know, maybe it was Friday, maybe he did that, and he just come unglued because I don't know who the guy was, if it was another competitor or somebody, but somebody jumped on there and they said, this NASCAR money's ruining racing. People like Hoffman and people like Stremme and people like Kenny Wallace, they're ruining modified racing. And this guy, and it literally set Herm off. I'm like, and he ranted, and he's like, I got lots of topics, and I'm going to set some people straight. And he was throwing F-bombs, and there's people like literally like, hey, my kids are watching, you need to watch your mouth. And he's like, I'm pissed off. Like, I don't care. And like, I'm telling you, it was entertaining. So if you haven't watched that, go to Kenny Wallace's Facebook page and scroll back
Just,
a couple days.
don't watch it with your kids.
Don't watch it with your kids unless they're at the track with you cussing and yelling at the guy that just ran India. Then it's perfectly fine. I know there's none of that in racing, right? In fact, one of them was a Harry Hansen fan. Actually, he was a fan of mine too. I remember Sam Skolsky got into me one night, and this little kid, he's like 8 years old. He come down, where's that from Skolsky at? I'm gonna go rip him. And I'm like, this kid's like 8. I'm like, he's like, he screwed you over, F him. And I'm like, 8 years old. I'm like, this kid's kind of cool. I like him. He's gonna he should be my pit guy. And but yeah, the fact is he went off and I'm gonna ask you this. You kind of look at that thought process, right? Do you think that you think maybe that guy was right? Do you think he was wrong? Do you think that I'm specifically talking modified racing. Do you think that, maybe the Charlotte group or whatever has hurt modified racing at all with all that technology and money, or no? Or what's your thoughts on that? Do you have an opinion?
Technologies, I mean, people are always looking to go faster. People are always looking to win. So